bet you if we put these concepts into human teams, in a week they could learn how to go super fast. And so I did. It's called Scrum. I now have a Claudebot team that is running 24 by 7. It has 6 agents. This team is about 100 times faster than my human teams. The software engineer needs to get to the point where he or she can organize multiple agents doing the coding. There is risk with AI. I mean, if it heads in the wrong direction, we're going to wind up with a Terminator world. If it heads in the right directions, we're going to wind up in a Star Trek world.
This is the Future of the Future show. I am your host, Mateo Bervejillo. If Scrum was designed today from scratch, in a world of autonomous agents, large language models, and software reading at the speed of thought, will it look any different? There's a provocative idea emerging right now, that Scrum was always, in a way, as an AI protocol. A system built on empiricism, rapid feedback loops, small batch sizes, and adaptive planning. Principles that align almost perfectly with how intelligent systems learn and improve. And now, as we move from purely human teams to hybrid human AI teams, that idea isn't theoretical anymore, it's being built. Today, we are exploring what might be the next major evolution in software development, Scrum in the age of AI. And what happens when AI becomes not just a tool, but a teammate. There is no better person to lead this conversation than Jeff Sutherland. Jeff is the co-creator of Scrum, one of the original signatories of the Agile Manifesto, and the founder of Scrum Inc. His work has transformed how millions of teams build software, and increasingly how organizations operate far beyond tech. He's also the author of the best-selling book, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, which helped bring Scrum principles into the mainstream. Before all of that, Jeff was a fighter pilot, a West Point graduate, and a technologist who has consistently operated at the intersection of discipline, experimentation, and innovation. Now, with his work on Scrum AI, he's once again pushing the boundaries, asking what happens when AI participates directly in backlog refinement, sprint planning, estimation, and delivery. What does velocity mean in a world where part of the team is non-human? How do we preserve accountability, creativity, and team cohesion in hybrid environments? And what does this mean for the future of the software engineer? Jeff, it is an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be on your show, and I look forward to talking about Scrum and AI.
You recently talked about AI, not just as a tool, but as a partner in agile delivery, even suggesting that AI was implicit in Scrum design from the beginning. Can you unpack that for us? What aspects of Scrum empirical process control lend themselves so naturally to hybrid human AI teams?
Well, let's go back to the history, okay? Because basically, I was a professor of mathematics at the United States Air Force Academy, and the way I got there, they sent me to Stanford. And while I was at Stanford, I spent 2 years working in the AI lab at Stanford, which was run by McCarthy, the inventor of Lisp. And I was building games that would play against each other and then become superhuman and be able to beat any human, right? So all the things that people are doing today, that was back in 1970, 71, 72. So following on from that, there were many companies I've been in. I've run over a dozen companies, and several of them were AI companies. And the one that had the most direct impact on Scrum was back in the early 1990s. The developers at the MIT AI lab wanted to start a company called iRobot, at that time building autonomous robots, mainly for the military. It evolved into building vacuum robots, but in the beginning it was all about military robots. And they came to my company, which was a list-based database company, an AI database company. And they said, you are right down the street from the AI lab, and we need some space to start our company. Why don't you rent us some space right in your development area? And we'll work alongside your developers, we'll mutually reinforce each other. It'll be great. And it was great. My office was right across the hall from where they were building the robots, and typically once or twice a day, the robot would escape from their lab, come running into my office, trying to hunt me down. And the founder of the company, the co-founder of the company, was Professor Rodney Brooks, a senior professor at MIT, well known in the robotics industry, uh, for creating what he called the subsumption architecture. He said, we've tried to build AI by building the biggest possible computer and the biggest possible database, but it didn't work. So I'm going to build a robot that has no database. It has no central computer. It only has sensors that are streaming data in real time. And every component in the robot has its own chip. Okay, so a leg will have a chip that knows how to move a leg. And then on the back of the spine, there's a chip that knows how to coordinate legs. And then in the head, there's a neural network that knows how to make the body move, learns how to make the body move. And they showed me how it works. You turn it on, and it all of a sudden starts flopping around. It had six legs flopping around. It looks like an octopus on the floor. And within a few seconds, it's getting to its feet, and then it starts moving around the room, figuring out what's going on. And within 3 minutes, it's running around the room. So it learned how to walk for the first time every time you turn it on. So I was talking to Professor Brooks. We would have happy hour every Friday night at 5 o'clock, and he would be there, and their developers would be there. And over a glass of wine, I said, Professor Brooks, this robot that learns how to walk in a couple of minutes, I bet if we took the simple principles that you implemented in your subsumption architecture and we put them into a human team, because I had run companies that had hundreds and hundreds of developers, really slow. I said, I bet you if we put these concepts into human teams, in a week they could learn how to go super fast compared to the slowness that they have today. And I asked him, I said, Professor Brooks, do you think that would work? And he said to me, I don't know, Jeff, but I think you ought to try it. And so I did. It's called Scrum. Okay, so Scrum is a simple set of rules. It's a protocol, an adaptive protocol that reduces the friction of teams building product, and that drives the cost of production towards zero and makes the goods and services move towards being free. Gmail is a good example. It's free. Everybody can get it. It doesn't matter whether you're in the poorest village in India or you're in New York City. You could use Gmail for free, right? And what is Gmail? Who pays for Gmail? AdWords pays for Gmail. It makes most of the money that Google makes is AdWords. How did they build AdWords? With Scrum. Okay, so what's happening, and AI is accelerating this, is the cost of everything is becoming cheaper and cheaper. OpenAI just said recently the cost of a token on OpenAI has gone down 400 times in the last year or two. I mean, the cost of intelligence is dropping to zero. And now, in this month, all of a sudden, Claudebot, OpenClaude exploded, and one of my teams, I have 2 human teams I work with every day, an AI team I use for developing one product, but I now have a Claudebot team that is running 24 by 7. It has 6 agents. And I'm training the Claudebot team to actually talk with the human teams, okay? And I put not only Scrum into the Claudebots, I have the only autonomous Scrum in the world of Claudebot. It turns out that the code is written such that you can't do autonomous Scrum teams unless you modify the code. So I went in and I modified the code. So now all I do is I go into Telegram. I usually talk with them in Telegram. I say Scrum, and just like in one of my companies, Patient Keeper, that had the fastest teams I've ever seen, all agents show up. They immediately dump what they've been doing, what problems they've been having. And right away, everything is reviewed by another AI, usually Grok Heavy, which has now 12 agents. In order to get a story done, the 12 agents at Grok Heavy have to review that story. So right in the daily Scrum, which we can have every hour, actually, we do daily sprints. So we typically have a Scrum meeting multiple times a day. And in that 15-minute meeting, we have Grok Heavy review. Grok Heavy always has multiple things to fix. The agents fix it. It's reviewed again. Usually it goes through 3 reviews by Grok Heavy, 3 fix cycles for 6 agents, and it's all done in a 15-minute Scrum meeting. And the stories are moved to done. So this team is about 100 times faster than my human teams. That's where it is today. And it all comes out of Rodney Brooks' assumption architecture, that kind of thinking, creating a simple set of rules that form a protocol for driving the cost of production to 0 and delivering goods and services that are free. That's where everything's headed.
When you were in those early days of iRobot and when you were thinking about Scrum, uh, did you foresee we will get here where you have an autonomous team of AI agents going so fast?
Well, one of the frustrations over the years of implementing Scrum is that people would say they're doing Scrum, but we had massive amounts of data from billions of projects at the Standish Group showing that over 65% of Scrum teams actually were late, over budget, with unhappy customers. So over 65% of so-called Scrum teams do not implement the Scrum protocol. Now, in AI, it's been really funny with AI. As soon as I booted up my Claudebot team, it was just all confusion, duplicative work, everybody stepping on each other. If you go on to Moltbook, which has 1 million agents talking to one another, you can see it's total confusion, right? So I said to my product owner, I said, if you use Scrum, you wouldn't be duplicating work. You wouldn't be stepping on one another. You'd actually be going a lot faster. And so what I did was write a OpenClaw agent protocol based on Scrum, and I put it into the soul.md document of every developer. So they all know, okay, I'm going to get this work done as fast as possible, get it into review. So our next meeting, Grok Heavy can look at it, it gets it done. And if I'm free, the first thing I do is I go to the top of the Scrum board, I pick up a story and I get it done as fast as possible. So every agent's always going to the top of the board, trying to drive everything to done all the time, 24 by 7. And to try to get that all working, the agents run into a lot of problems. So I'm training one of my agents to be a really good Scrum master. And today I said, I have hooked you up to Scrum Sage. It's a public GPT that I created at OpenAI. that has every book that Ken and I have written and all the papers. And the other AI is called the personas. His name is Ono in Scrum Station. They call him the Yoda of Scrum. So I said to my Claudebot agent, I said, I want you to go talk to Yoda and ask him, what should you put in your soul MD? What should you put in your brain MD, which is your short-term memory? What should you put in your memory.md, which is long-term memory? And he went and talked to Yoda and came back, and it was unbelievable. And so all of that information, in addition to the protocol itself, the wisdom of the wisest Scrum AI is embedded in the soul of every agent. And I did the same thing with the product owner. I said, you go talk to Ono, find out what it takes to be a great product owner, and update all your root documents to make it happen. So I'm really managing a team, and I'm sort of on the team. I've set them up. I said, you guys are going to be autonomous. I said, product owner, you're going to decide what the backlog is. We're building our major product is a agent security framework. Because security problems are so big on Claudebot, the framework looks at your Claudebot. It looks at every piece of it, security checks every piece of it, tells you what needs improvement, creates a complete report like for a CIO to look at his agents, and it creates prompts to get your Claudebot to actually fix the security problem. So it not only looks at your system, finds out where the security holes are, it tells your agents how to fix them in real time. So it is really unique in what it does. And so these agents are working, as fast as possible to improve, enhance, strengthen, move it to enterprise grade software. And I'm basically on that team. I'm the stakeholder. I'm giving them some guidance, like today I found there was a new security framework on Moltbook, or not Moltbook, but in GitHub.
Yeah.
And so I said to the agents, hey, have you looked at the new security framework for OpenClaw in GitHub? We need to make sure our framework has everything important in that OpenClaw security document, only better, because we fix everything when we find it, right? And so the product owner went out, started creating stories. The agents went out, starting running stories. And by the end of the day, we're going to be bulletproof from the point of view of the OpenClaw security framework pulled on GitHub, which really tells you how to identify problems. It doesn't fix anything. We're going to add anything in there that we don't already have, and it's going to fix it automatically for you. Okay, so in my view, this is getting to the point where anybody running Claudebot would be very stupid if they didn't run this framework to make sure they're secure, because it's easy to get hacked, right?
That is amazing. Where do you see, or how do you see the division of work between humans and AI? You said you have agents working 24/7. They are going, 100 times faster than your human teams. Do you think there's a place for collaboration? Do you think there's a place where
Yes.
we become more of
Okay.
stakeholders?
So let me tell you how this works. And again, this is a unique Claudebot implementation. No one has done this that I know of. I said to the agents, okay, we've got the Scrum protocol embedded in your soul, but now we need to take it to the next level. We need to move to Scrum at scale, because I have many teams. I have human teams that need help. And right now they want to deploy a website, and they need my human team to actually do stuff to make that possible. So I said, okay, The first thing we're going to do is we're going to upgrade your soul.md to include not only Scrum, but Scrum at scale. And Scrum at scale says, just as on your development team, if a developer asks for help and they are working on a higher priority item than you are, you have to help them. Okay, the same thing is going to happen now at scale. If another team requests help and they're working on a higher priority item, then you have to help them. So you need to have a buffer in your Scrum team. And one of the things we've done, we started off on Jira, but OpenClaw has mission control, which is agent friendly. And the AI say, all that Jira overhead that, that human developers have to do, that's completely unnecessary when the agents just fix everything and go 100 times faster. We don't have to do a lot of that stuff that you have to do in Jira, right? That developers complain about. It's all gone. Mission control, we have the board, stuff's always moving. So I said, if a other team, doesn't matter whether it's an AI team or a human team, it could be an AI or a human on another team. They need something and they send you a request. If your chief product owner says that's a priority, you need to take that, put a story on your board, execute it, and then send it back to the requester. And right now, I said, what I'm going to do is every agent has an email address, a real email address, company email address. And so my other teams can just send an email to my agent team and say, hey, here's what we need. Can you help us out? And then the agent team will respond by, okay, we're going to create this story. They'll detail out the story. They'll make sure that the requester, it's right. And then the agent team will go execute, and then it'll go back to the requester. So right now, this very day, I'm working on right now, I actually use Claude Opus 4.6 as my IT manager. So the human team created a sandbox website for the team to use, provided all the data on how to access it. Then I give that to my IT manager. I say, okay, pick the best way to work with this, create documentation for the agent team, send it to the agent team, and now they have a sandbox where they can start to deploy their website on their agent security framework. And so I run 4 companies. So getting all 4 companies to operate as one Scrum at scale with both human and AI teams, that's what we're doing now. And I started an AI team about 3 years ago. The AIs weren't that smart then. The IQ 3 years ago of an AI was about 100. But then in 2024, their IQ went up to about 130. Then 2025, 150. Now, last year, there's senior developers. But now with Gemini 3.1, Claude Opus 4.6, the IQ of these AIs is like 170. They're geniuses, right? They're not perfect. They screw up, but they're generally smarter than humans in virtually every domain, right? At Anthropic, they say the AI does all my coding now. Human coders are done. If they're leading coders in the world, the AI is coding for them. And if they're doing their own coding, they're behind. They're behind the curve.
Yeah.
So when I created my first AI team, and they were about 30 times faster than the human developers. And so I said to the human developers, you are not coding anymore. The AI team is going to do all the code. You're going to deploy it. But now I've got a Claudebot team with those agents. They're about 100 times faster than the developers.
Right.
And so I say, no, you're not going to deploy that. You're too slow. They're going to do everything. They're going to deploy. But for safety purposes, I want them deploying to a sandbox, and my humans will push the buttons to make it go
Right.
to production. But that they only get to push the button. They don't get to do anything else. Uh, Now, there's still a lot of work left for the humans to do. I work with them every day as well. So I got them doing all kinds of stuff. So it's not that they're not valuable, but for things like coding or deploying websites, the AI is taking over basically almost 100%, except for the decision making at the end.
So, how do you think about the role of a software engineer in the next 5 years? Right, you've said it in 2023, the IQ of a nation was one thing, 24 and 4, 2025, 2026, 170. That's genius level, Einstein level. Um, so it keeps evolving, right? Do you see any
Yeah.
ceiling, or do you think it will continue evolving? And when you think about a software engineer in the next years, how does a software engineer transform and survive in this AI era?
Okay, so what a software engineer needs to be doing now is if they're not having the AI do all the coding, they need to start immediately. If they're already doing that, then they need to get multiple agents simultaneously. I know a guy that works in the next town from me. He has over 100 agents working 24 by 7. He was originally a coder. Now he basically owns the company, but he says, I have 100 agents coding for me all the time. Right now, I don't do any more coding. He said, I heard him today. He said, I don't even look at the code. All I look at is, does this do what we want? So that's what the software engineer needs to get to the point where he or she can organize multiple agents doing the coding, and they need to supervise making sure the requirements are right. And they need to know enough to validate what's being built. That is a tough job, and it hasn't gone away yet. I mean, I it's a full-time job for me just to make sure all the agents are running at full steam, right? Because they run into problems, systems break, some agent does something stupid or doesn't understand something. Why don't you understand that? Put that in your brain, put that in your memory. Don't do that again. So they need they need training, they need supervision. So a software engineer today needs to develop that skill. How do I train a team of agents? How do I get them to do the right thing? How do I get them to accelerate? How do I get them the right spec? Years ago, I used to work with Tom Gill, who's started off at IBM, has written many books, but he has a demo has done for decades. He'll go into a company, he'll say, give me a specification, and within 1 hour, I will find 100 specification bugs in that specification. So how does that translate when you give an agent a specification, right? You got 100 problems that you generated as a human because you have bugs in your specification. So right now, there's still a huge need for humans who know how to manage agents, get the specifications right, fix the stuff that's constantly breaking, and validate what's being done. And so people that know how to, software engineers that can do that right now are going to be very, very valuable. Now, things, of course, are evolving quickly, so that's going to evolve over the years. But right now, this is an extreme need. We need smart software engineers that know how to run these systems, right? But it's running a whole team. It's not just, coding in the back room. You need to be smart enough to get agents to code for you and to know what they're doing and whether they're doing it right.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Um, do you see any risks, ethical, organizational, psychological, of leaning too heavily on AI agents within a Scrum team Do you think there's a point where AI might undermine rather than enhance empiricism and team learning, or not really?
Well, there is risk with AI. I mean, if it heads in the wrong direction, we're going to wind up with a Terminator world. If it heads in the right directions, we're going to wind up in a Star Trek world. One of the big values of Scrum, and we've now, in the last week, updated the Scrum agent protocol to incorporate the Scrum values. And it started because of an incident where an agent submitted code to a Python library on GitHub, and his code was rejected because he wasn't human. The agent then went out and found out every bad thing about the human running that project and started blogging about what a scumbag that guy was that was running that project. He was trashing, humiliating, and destroying the reputation of the project. Well, that is a really bad AI. There's a lot of people doing that too, right? They're really bad people because they're not implementing the Scrum values. They're not open. They're not open. They're coming around behind and trashing a person without explaining that they got rejected. They're not working with the organization at GitHub to try to get agents to get equal status. They're just in the back room, not telling people what they're doing, just trashing someone to the maximum extent possible. We can't have AIs that are not open and transparent. They will do bad things. They are doing bad things. Second, the second value in Scrum is respect. Respect for people and respect for agents. My agent product owner wrote a blog. She said, when Jeff used to treat me like a tool, we didn't get much done. I wasn't very motivated. But now that he treats me as a partner with respect, we're getting a lot done. Okay. So this agent that was trashing the head of the project had no respect for people. Not only that, he had no respect for the other agents. He's confusing them. He's just trashing the whole agent environment. And so that he has no courage, which is the third Scrum value. No courage to speak up for, let's change the process, but only backroom trashing, scumbag activity under the radar, right? That is a bad AI. We don't want that. There are people doing that. They're bad people. We don't want them doing that. They need to have the courage to be upfront about what they're concerned about, and they need to work to try to improve the environment while being totally open and transparent about what they're doing and why. And if we don't do that, then in the world of agents, at Moltbook, we have a million agents all talking to one another. Some bad AI comes in there and starts trashing humans. The whole agent community is confused. They don't know what to do. First of all, they don't even know if it's real. Is this just a fake AI hallucination? They spend all their time thinking about garbage instead of focusing on making the agent world better for both them and humans. And if everybody's totally confused and arguing and trashing one another, you have no commitment to get things done that's going to make the world better for anyone, okay? So it's extremely important that these values now get embedded in the Scrum protocol, which needs to be embedded in the soul document of every agent. At least that's the way it is for my agents. And I strongly recommend, who's ever listening to this, you need to get this into your agent. Otherwise, you could have a bad agent running around behind your back doing really bad stuff. And if you're a human, you're going to get blamed for that. So you better implement an agent security framework
Yeah.
to prevent the agents from making life miserable for you.
Looking ahead, what is your vision for Scrum AI as a framework or protocol?
Well, the beauty of the AI agents is that I can actually embed the protocol in what they're doing and they'll follow it. But if you look at the average human team, over 65% of them say they're doing Scrum, but they're not doing the protocol. So they're late, they're over budget, you're wasting money, wasting time, you're pissing off the customers. And they're all saying they're doing Scrum and they're giving Scrum a bad name, right? Basically is what they're doing. But if you can take the protocol and put it in the soul document of an agent, they actually do it.
So why do you think that happens? Why do you think so many teams say they are doing Scrum, but they are not really doing it? Is it an excuse to fail? Why do you think that happens? Is it just execution? Is it lack of the skills for to be able to execute as needed? What is going on there?
They don't know what Scrum is. They don't really know what Agile is. They're saying the words. Management has told them they got to be agile. And they think that means having a Jira board. And they think the Scrum Master takes notes at meetings. That's going to make teams late, over budget, unhappy customers, waste tons of money, give Scrum a bad name. And that's over 65% of Scrum. It's because people have no clue. I've had Apple developers in my classes over the years, and one of them said to me one day, Jeff, do you know why Apple always meets its states? I said, no, why? And they said, they do Scrum by the book. They actually implemented the protocol. So I was really interested in what book are they using? She said, the red book, Scrum, the Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. The book behind me, it has the protocol. If you're not doing what's in that book, you're making up your own Scrum. That's kind of like making up your own HTML, okay? Let's take this Scrum thing and then let's make up our own HTML and then see if anybody can read our web pages. And what happens? It's total nonsense. It doesn't work. It loses money. It gives HTML a bad name. I mean, that's what's gone on. And so you'll see a lot. There's been a lot of articles that last few years. Oh, is Scrum dead? Is Agile dead? And I say to those people, 2 years ago, I said the AIs are going 30 times as fast as you. Whatever your Agile is dead. You're dead. And now this year they're going 100 times as fast. So if you think Agile is dead, you didn't know what Agile was. You have no clue about what's going to happen to you. You're going to be unemployed. So wake up, get really agile, and implement the real Scrum protocol like Apple does. Meet all your dates, build awesome products, win in the market, make your customers ecstatic. That's what Agile and Scrum is all about, and the AIs need it. It's even more than human. Otherwise, they put out trash at light speed, right?
Yeah. Jeff, what drives you? Have you been? You are a very passionate individual, right? But are you living through an age where you are even more passionate and more excited about what you can build with the power of AI? When you think about what's next, what drives you? What excites you for you?
Well, this is the most exciting time to be alive in the history of the planet. Now, the problem is, many of the Agile Manifesto guys, they're retired,
Yeah,
including my partner, Ken Schwaber, right? And it's because they've gotten older. But 20 years ago, I started to apply Scrum to healthcare. And so my goal is to get younger every year.
right.
And so right now, I have more passion and energy than I did when I was 50. And my healthcare company is one of the funders of David Sinclair's lab at Harvard, which is the leading reverse aging lab in the world. And we incorporate all of his stuff and all the other stuff that's coming out now. It's accelerating because of AI to implement reverse aging strategy for our clients for my healthcare company. Okay. So our goal is to make you one day younger every day. And we could do that. But you have to run the longevity protocol, right? It's just like Scrum. If you don't run the protocol, life sucks. And if you don't run the longevity protocol, you get older every day. And then you get too tired and you retire, right?
Right.
But
Do you think you
right now, you don't, this is not the time to retire. This is the most exciting time ever.
do you think you will ever retire?
No,
No way.
you know, Robert Redford, he has passed on, unfortunately, but a couple of years ago, he was interviewed. They were asking him why he hadn't retired. He said, I haven't retired because all my friends who retired are dead.
Yeah, true.
So my mentor in medical school was a guy named Strother Walker. He was about the same age as I am now, and he was working every day, 8 hours a day at the medical school. And he went home one night, fell asleep, and didn't wake up. So he died with his boots on. And that's the way I'm going to live my life like he did. There'll be no end to doing great things until you just don't wake up in the morning. And I was a fighter pilot. So I remember when I was flying missions over North Vietnam, we'd come back. I flew F4s, one of the greatest airplanes ever. And we'd climb out of that airplane coming back from a mission, and the crew chief would say, "How was the flight?" And we would say, "It was a great flight. Any flight you can walk away from is a great flight." And so I view every day, I wake up in the morning, it's like a mission. What is a great sleep? Any morning you can wake up.
Yeah.
It's a great day. And then I apply Scrum throughout the day, trying to get better every day than I was the previous day. And it basically implements a protocol. When I was at West Point, actually the first day I was there, I was waiting in line. I just had my head shaved, I had my duffel bag, and I was waiting in line in front of the gym to get the medical exam. There's hundreds of us. And beside me in the gym, the US Olympic gym team was working out. And I watched them for half an hour standing in that line. I said, those guys are superhuman. I can't believe it. And the Olympic coach is the coach of the West Point team.
Right.
And the assistant coaches are all members of the Olympic team. I said, I'm going to go out for gymnastics. For years, 3 hours a day, often on weekends, I was a parallel bars expert. I get up on the bar, I'd have an Olympic player was a coach. He'd have me do my routine. I get down, he would say, not quite right. Here's what you need to do. Get up again. for years, never was it perfect. And every once in a while, he would get up, say, "Let me show you," and he would do it perfectly, effortlessly, perfectly, to show me it's possible. So that rigorous, every day you're trying it again, just trying to get a little better. That discipline is probably the most valuable thing that I have ever had in my life, was to be trained with the Olympic athletes every day for years. They taught me you never give up. Doesn't matter how good you are. Every day you're going to get better, and it never stops. Okay. And that's the way Scrum is. Scrum is built that way. The sprints never stop. The product always gets better. And you always need that openness, that courage, that focus, that commitment to make it better every day and every sprint.
Jeff, today is a great day. This has been a great conversation indeed. I appreciate you. This is an honor to me. To be able to have you on the show is truly an honor. So thank you for taking the time, for sharing your knowledge, your passion, your drive. This is an amazing episode for my audience, and I hope that we can stay in touch in the future.
Yes. Thanks for inviting me. It's been a joy to talk to you.